bilingual actually means? Osaa puhua kahdella kielellä.
Hello guys, my name is Alina and today's video is all about what it's like to be bilingual. But before I start the video, I have an Instagram account. Please subscribe and put a thumb up or down and write a comment if you like. And grab a tea or something what you like. Let's relax together and have some fun. So yeah, so what's like to be bilingual? Let's go. So a little bit background information. My other parent is Russian and the other one is Finnish. So I learned the language, let's say from the beginning. I learned the language from them. So I learned two languages. I have two mother tongues. And I hear people often say that when you're young, you learn the new language really easily. And you learn many things easily. It's much more easier to learn a new language when you're young than when you are grown up. It is kind of true, but for me it always meant working 2 times more because you are working on 2 languages, and if you want to keep those languages on the same high level, you have to work. You have to study the grammar, you have to read, you have to use the language, because if you don't do that, you will really easily forget the language. There are many bilingual children who don't use the other language as much, and eventually they forget the other language. It is really easy to forget the language, but if you want to keep them and you want to speak as a native speaker, you have to do work. So being bilingual means for me always working, always studying. I had to study those languages, but it is the way I am. I have this funny thing that I make pauses when I speak or talk. Not all the time, but I kind of forget those words, which is kind of funny, like... Hei, tiedätkö mikä se sana, ootas? Siis niinku... Mä tiedän se enkuks, ootas... En mä muista, se on niinku... And... Yeah, you know the other words in other language, or even in Swedish that I'm studying, or even in English, but you don't know the exact words you need or the exact language. So I kind of have an accent, I don't know if it is an accent or a small thing that I have when I speak the languages. So if I speak Finnish or Russian, some people are staring me and asking me that, are you sure you're Finnish? I can hear that you aren't 100% Finnish or Russian. So I don't know if other bilingual people have this problem, but I have. Having bilingual friends that have same mother tongues that you have is really awesome and fun, because if you forget the words, you can use the other language without shame. So I have a principle that I don't mix languages when I speak. Even when I'm talking, let's say, with my parents and they understand the meaning, the word, if I'm using the other language, but I'm not using that just because I want the language to be clear and right and not mixing up the languages. Some bilingual people do really often, like they mix up the languages so much, which is fun when you're with friends and you're kind of relaxed and there's no one judging you and you can just be like, yeah, you know the word like this one, and you're like, yeah, I understand what you're meaning, and then you switch from one language to another, and then one language to another, and it is kind of messy when I think some people are like walking by and listening, are talking like, what they are doing, man. Mixing up languages with your bilingual friends is awesome and kind of wrong if you're asking for my opinion. So what is like to study when you're bilingual? Let's say it is difficult because one language has its own grammar and the other one has a different grammar, but if you don't remember the grammar exactly as the way it is, you kind of mix it up. So I sometimes use the Russian word order in Finnish and vice versa, which can sound really strange and funny, and so it is kind of strange. So that's why studying was sometimes difficult, or when I was writing essays in high school, sometimes teachers told me that the word, I forgot, the word order isn't Finnish or isn't Russian, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, you can say the thing in other language, but it sounds strange in the other one. So it took me some time to remember that, and now I'm more careful when I'm writing essays or anything. Always when there are other cultures or languages involved, there is always bullying, which is really sad. So I got teased and bullied, and I have heard many things just because I am bilingual or I am not 100% this or that. So some things are really racist, and it is really sad because there is nothing wrong with knowing 2 languages or 3 or 1 or whatever, but when you live in a country and you know another language that isn't official here, you can get some hate, which is sad, really sad. Some teacher was like, go read some children's books because you suck, and I'm like, thanks. But you can kind of, I got used to it, but this is, I think, the saddest thing about being bilingual. You get hate sometimes people aren't that open. When you already know 2 languages, it is, for me, I guess, more easy to learn even more languages. So I have studied a lot of languages, from Chinese to French to whatever. It is, I think, more easier because you're kind of used to work with your brain and learn and think, which is, I think a really big plus. When you know 2 languages, you kind of become more open, a more open person. You know many cultures, you can get to travel more countries, you can talk to more people, which is really great. Your view of life becomes more rich, and you get to see many things, experience many things, which is, I think, great thing. So knowing new cultures, bilingual or native or not, just knowing more cultures makes you rich from the inside, and that is what is really important, to be rich inside. Some people ask me in what language I'm thinking. That is a really interesting question, because I think I'm not thinking in just Russian or in just Finnish. I'm thinking somewhere in the middle, let's say. I have a third language. Like, it's not fully Russian, not fully Finnish, somewhere in between. Like, you're not thinking in particular language. You're just, it might sound a little bit weird, but you're just thinking, you're just doing your things, you're just seeing dreams or whatever. So you have a language between, and you're not switching to one language to another, like, oh wait, I'm going to think in English right now, or in Russian, or in Finnish. You're just doing things, normal things. You're just there. But if you hang out with your Russian friends or Finnish friends, you kinda think more in that language, but not fully, I think. It is really hard to explain to you, but if some bilingual person is watching this, please write a comment and say if you have a same thing with me. Like, you have no language that you're thinking in. You're just thinking in some kind of empty language. I have written one article about this thing, that bilingual people has that third language, and I think that is very true. If I found the article or the website or the video, I don't remember what I saw many years ago. I will link it in the description, because this is a really interesting topic actually. So there's a kind of strange thing in bilingual people, not in all I think, but in many, that they kind of have multiple personalities. Okay, that sounded really weird, but when they're speaking the other language, they are acting in certain way. But when they switch the language, they are not completely, but sometimes a completely different person, which is, I think, really cool and scary at the same time. So if I see my friend switching languages, and let's imagine I'm not talking to them, I can clearly see that they are changing a personality there. It is kind of cool, I think. But if some people are used to see you in a certain way, and then you suddenly, for example, someone calls you and you switch to the other language, you can kind of scare them or surprise them, but in a good way. So it isn't that big, the change itself, but it is there for some people, at least for me and for some of my friends. We kind of switched personalities from one personality to another. A little bit different when you study the language. When you know the language from the beginning, you feel the language. When you study the language, you just know the language. So to feel the language, you have to study a little bit more. So for me to fully feel the English or Swedish, I have to know the culture really well. I have to know the people. I have to do a lot of work, and it is just the way it is, and it isn't a scary thing or sad thing. It is the way languages, I think, work. So means being rich from the inside. You accept people more easily. Maybe you love people more easily. You understand when someone has an accent, and maybe when someone doesn't know the language really well and they are trying their best to explain themselves. You just become, I think, a really understanding, kind of weird person that knows just two languages. Always meant working. It always meant that my languages were like this. They were competing against each other. Because if I was using more Finnish, my Russian went down. If I used more Russian, my Finnish went down, and teachers weren't so happy about that. And if my Russian went down, wasn't a good thing if you want to keep the languages. So if you're a bilingual person, don't give up. You have a big opportunity to learn the languages really well. You can be an expert. Maybe you'll get your job more easily. Maybe you just can help people more easily, or understand them, or maybe teach them the language. Don't compare yourself to other people. Take more time to understand what kind of person you are and what you can do better and where you can work on, let's say. So comparing won't give you anything, sadly. You have to just learn how to live with it. You have to understand, see the difference between two languages, understand the grammar. So you won't use same expressions with two languages, because every language has their own idioms or expressions or even words that just won't work with other language. So please don't compare yourself to others. Please understand that there are different bilingual people. There are people who know just one language, 4 languages. It is fine. Everything is fine. You just have to work on something if you really want it. You have to do things that makes you happy. But I think studying languages, bilingual, trilingual or not, languages are always makes you rich, makes you smarter, and makes you more open. And when you're more open, you can really feel happiness. So yeah, hope you have a really nice day. Please enjoy your day, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.